One. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Try, Tested, Conquer right here on the new, and we're still new, OPNS 97.1. Oh my Lord, do we have a treat for you today? We know that Miss Bella Biz, who is always about her biz, is our new host for Try, Tested, Conquered. We have a treat for you today. We know the election has everybody running crazy. I was even seeing where there are some riots. What for? That are going on. Listen, I love to say, let's get it straight from the horse's mouth. Let's not take and go from here, from there. Let's go to people who know what they're talking about. And God has blessed this station to have as our special guest today, Miss Helen Butler. Miss Butler is the exclusive See, I'm reading what I wrote. Hold on. Ms. Butler is the executive director for Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. So, all of these questions that we have about this voting process right now, you're going to get it real raw and uncut today. So, without further ado, I will turn this thing over to Miss Bella Biz, who is all about her biz. Bella?
Thank you, ShAunta. All right, y'all know how I do it. OPNS 97.1. Try, test it, and conquer. This your girl, Bella. I'm going to go right into this exclusive interview. Tell you a little bit about Miss Helen, and she's going to tell you all about herself. Helen serves as executive director of the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. It's an advocacy organization comprised of representatives from the human rights, civil rights, environment, labor, women, young professionals, youth, elected officials, peace, and justice groups throughout the state of Georgia, founded by the late Dr. Joseph E. Lowery. She was also able to increase the membership of the organization to over 60, I said 60, statewide and local organizations, as well as promote collaborative issues, campaigning, organizing activities throughout the state of Georgia. In keeping with the People's Agenda commitment to social justice issues, Helen has formed strategic alliances to improve quality of life for communities of color. Helen has a litany of things, but she was recently recognized by the Atlanta Business Journal League as one of Atlanta's top 100 Black women of influence in 2018, 2019, 2020, and more to come. Through her Community Engagement Award from National Action Network, which is, of course, run by Reverend Al Sharpton, and the 2019 C.T. Vivian Carriage Award led by Let Us Make Man, some of you probably heard about. As one of the first 50 African American students to attend the University of Georgia after the integration of the schools by Charlene Hunter, Galt, and Hamilton Holmes, she received a Bachelor's of Business Administration from the University of Georgia with a major in accounting. Helen also studied and served as a recruiter for the Master's of Public Administration program at the University of Georgia. She was certified as the issue campaign organized by the Midwest Training Academy in 2000. I can go on and on and on. I am personally privileged and humbled to have this woman. She is a legacy within her own right. She and I have worked and aligned with the Women League of Women Voters of Georgia, but I got to tell you, she's a league all by herself. OPNS family. Without further ado, let me introduce to some of those and reintroduce to others the illustrious Miss Helen Butler. Hey there, Miss Butler. How you doing?
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you, OPN, for having me with you. I am so happy to be here with you. I just want to say that I am glad to be with Bella. I know you as Linda, but as Bella, I'm glad. And ShAunta, I'm so happy to be with you all today to talk about this election cycle. It has been a journey. But this is a journey that, we're following in the legacy of so many people like Dr. King, Dr. Lowry, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, Maria Boynton. I mean, Rita Samuels. There are so many unsung heroes and heroines that we need to just recognize, and they brought us here. And we have to continue that legacy of protecting the right to vote. because the right to vote is power, as you know. And people try to take it away from you because they want to take your power. So when people tell me that they don't want to register to vote, isn't going to make a difference, I tell them, you're giving up your power, because elected officials are our employees. We're the corporation. We're America. Okay, so the people make up America. So the elected officials are our employees, and when we don't hold them accountable, they just go amok. And so we have to hold them accountable, and we do that by voting and expressing our concerns to.
Bella, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. I love what you said. The CT Vivians. A lot of people don't know. I'm from the South, and when I say South, everybody think Atlanta is the South. Nope. Keep going further.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, and a lot of the names that you just rolled off, we didn't really talk about, hear about, or study about when I was younger coming up, and those people were still very busy, actively, for us to be able to have a voice today that a lot of people
Mhm.
are choosing not to use, you know. And so I'm so ecstatic to have you here today, because I got a lot of questions. So Bella, take us away.
What I want to do before Helen gets into a lot, and I want everybody that's listening under the sound of our voices, I urge you, get a piece of paper and a pen. If you've got an iPad or a notebook or your iPhone or Android, I promise you, it's very important that you can jot some nuggets down. Miss Helen's going to drop a lot, and I want to make sure you keep up with that. But first,
Yes.
before she gets into that, I want Helen, because Helen and I talked before the show,
Mhm.
to talk a little bit about the organizations, because I, like Helen, I've been committed to serve community initiatives for several years, more than I can count. And I have found in today's society, people really don't know the name of these organizations, and let alone what they stand for. So I'm going to slow it down while we've got Miss Helen. Miss Helen, take it away. Tell them a little bit more about your organization and more into what you do.
All right. The People's Agenda was formed in 1998 after Dr. Lowry actually stepped down as the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. He was the longest serving president of SCLC for 25 years. So when he retired from there, we said, there were not me, but a lot of people said, no, Dr. Lowry, you can't retire. We need you to continue the fight and the struggle. So they formed people like Earl Shinholster. I don't know if a lot of people know Earl Shinholster with the NAACP. My brother was with the NAACP. So Dr. Richard Bright at Morehouse School of Medicine. So it was Rita Samuels with the Georgia Coalition of Black Women. They all, Tyrone Brooks, they all formed the People's Agenda, and it came together differently than most organizations. Most organizations have individual membership. While we do have that, but we're basically a coalition of organizations that come together to work on issues that we can agree on. For those we can't agree on, we leave those away. But for those that we do agree on, we work collectively as a coalition to improve the communities that we serve. So that's basically African American, African diaspora, the Caribbean communities. And we do work with the Latinx, we work with the Asian Americans. So it's people of color that we actually work with to engage in activities to improve our communities. These are basically communities that are left out, marginalized, poor counties. So we work on public policy that will change the situations in our community. So we work on criminal justice reform. We work on education. We work on the environment, because that's a healthcare all encompassing. Energy. We talk about public service commission, That means who regulates our utilities. So we work on issues like that, healthcare. We work on economic empowerment. How many businesses get contracts? How do our people, actually get better wages from where they work? We advocate for a livable wage, not a minimum wage, but a livable wage. Those kind of affordable housing, all of those issues that are important to our community, we work on them. We meet every Tuesday from 12 to 2. We're the only organization I'm aware of that meets on a weekly basis to work on strategies, to find out things that are happening in our community. How can we collaborate to make it better? That the people's agenda is all about. It's about the people and their agenda. So we try to meet people everywhere. We right now have 7 offices across the state, one in Metro Atlanta, one in Athens, one in Albany, Georgia, one in Macon Bibb, one in LaGrange, and Augusta, Richmond, and Savannah. So those are our 7 offices where we are located. So we get people in those communities to run those offices. They're all headed by people that live in those communities. And then when we do a lot of civic engagement, we register people to vote. We educate them about who to vote for or what to vote for. We don't tell them who to vote. We just tell them the information on the candidates. We don't tell them who they should select. But we mobilize them. We provide rides to the polls. We phone bank them. We text them. Then we protect that right to vote. Just in this election cycle, we had 1,300 people that volunteered to be poll monitors throughout the state. They were stationed at polling locations to ensure that every voter could vote and there wasn't any problem and they weren't turned away. So those are some of the kinds of activities we do at the People's Agenda. But when we do voter registration, when we do mobilization, like providing rides to the polls, we work with people in the community to do that. And when we have money, because we're nonprofit, nonpartisan, and we rely on grants and donations. So when we have money, we actually pay people to do those jobs. Like, for instance, we did a lot of voter registration. We paid people $15 an hour to do voter registration. So it's things like that that we do in the community. We've been in Newton County working with seniors who were impacted by high utility bills. We actually had several meetings with the mayor and the city council to come to our meeting where they talked to the citizens. We got the mayor and the city council to do energy audits, to make recommendations on senior program for energy efficiency. So those are kinds of the activities. We advocate for citizen review board. We got it in Atlanta. Now we're working on other areas to institute a citizen review board. Why is that important? Because when you see these shootings, we need an independent agency to review what happened, to make sure they have subpoena power, they can do what they need to do to get justice for the people that are involved in those particular shootings. So that's what a little bit about what the People's Agenda as an organization of what we do. So I mean, that's what we're all about, is public policy. We do civic engagement. We do work with our legislatures to introduce public policy that we want to see in our communities. So we try to do it all and hold those elected officials accountable. They come to us, ask for our vote. Well, you got to come back.
Right.
Tell me what you're doing. Next Tuesday, I want you back to say what you're going to be doing. Give us an update on how you've improved our community. So that's what we've got to start doing. And we're trying to expand that to all 14 congressional districts. We're at 7, but we need to be at 14.
That's great. That's good, Helen. And for the listening audience, I want you all to understand you've got to be passionate about what you do. As you can see, Miss Helen is. And more importantly, we are always advocating, aren't we, Miss Helen, for volunteers, for people, boots on the ground. It's always necessary. I want to make a pause right now. No, I have been volunteering since I was 9. And I started watching my mother from Baltimore, Maryland, vote and go in as a poll worker. So it was dear to my heart, and I'm dating myself back in the day when it was the black curtain. I still remember going with my mother when she voted, and she instilled something in me. It's not for the faint at heart, but I just had to do a shameless plug to say, audience, think about it. It's only a few hours out of your busy schedule to just volunteer with any organization, no pun intended. Now, Miss Helen, I know the election is on everybody's mind. I know Georgia has been getting a lot of national and global play as it relates to the ballots coming in. What are some of the takeaways from your perspective of the election?
Well, while we had, I guess you would say, problems, what I saw was people were committed to voting. I wish that happened in every election cycle, that people were willing to stand in line in the rain, in the sun, and exercise their right to vote, because COVID has shown why it's important. I mean, a lot of people got the unemployment benefits, right?
Right.
And they think, oh, the president sent that to me. No, that's your tax dollars that you're getting. Don't get it twisted.
Come on,
Miss Helen.
The president did to you. Congress enacted the legislation to make sure that you got some of your tax dollars back to you in the form of unemployment benefits now. So a lot of people said they got the check signed by the president. He just signed it. But it's your money that's coming back to your neighborhood.
And Jen, let me interject. Helen, talk a little bit about the stimulus check too, since you touched on the unemployment from your perspective, because you're boots on the ground, many years, audience, many years. Miss Helen, trust me, knows exactly what she's talking about. She was with those foot soldiers who's no longer here. What's your perspective from the stimulus check? Because that was a big deal. Everybody getting that $1,200 stimulus check.
The stimulus check, again, is your tax dollars. You got to pay for that in some future form or other. So it's not that they gave you all of this. You gave yourself that. And so we want people to understand it's just like the census. We were doing the census. We wanted you to complete that census because that allocates how much money of your tax dollars come back to you based on numbers. So the census was important. The census also gets to determine who gets to represent you.
Yes.
Don't get it twisted, y'all. The money that you got is your tax dollars. It wasn't Donald Trump's or the president's tax dollars or dollars that he's giving you.
Right.
The House of Representatives passed the bill. The Senate also passed it.
Right.
The reason you got it. And the stimulus check is tax dollars that are coming back to you. I mean, we got to pay for those.
Say that one more time.
You know what?
Say
And
that
I
one
wanted
more
to ask
time.
you. I wanted to ask you that, and you just said we got to pay for that. So I've had a lot of people ask me, okay, so where do we stand when it comes down to filing our taxes for next year? Because what everybody got was, without you even breaking it down the way you just did, all we knew was we got approved for unemployment. We got approved for pandemic unemployment. We got approved for, all of these different unemployments. But then we were told that it was almost like a partial income replacement. So a lot of people are wondering, Is that taxable? Are we able to file taxes on that? Can you shed some light on that?
Well, it will be dependent on how Congress uh, in
Go
the
ahead.
end says that. But I can tell you this, it's the deficit of the United States. That money puts a part on our deficit dollars that are out there. We're spending money that we may not have for future. So future generations are going to have to pay
Pay
through
that.
taxes to make up for
Ow.
it. Okay. So that's what I'm
Whew.
talking about.
Yeah.
For
Right.
the individual, from your own tax purpose for income tax, that may be a different category. But for the taxes up is that we're going to have, as a nation, have to pay for deficits that we're spending that we don't have the money for. So future generations are going to be paying this back. So it's tax dollars that
Mm,
make up the revenue of the US. So in some form or fashion, we're going to be paying that back.
they're gonna get that back. Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Always gets his.
Yeah.
Well, Helen, talk a little bit about, because I know about an hour ago, real time, I looked at CNN and was looking at the percentage and the states that's already put their total votes in. I think I saw like 95% for the state of Georgia. Can you talk a little bit about that and see where we are update wise?
Well, update wise, we're still counting absentee ballots or vote by mail. We're still counting provisional ballots. Provisional ballots can't be cured until Friday because people have 3 days after the election to bring in whatever cure they may need to if they voted provisionally. So we have until Friday for them to cure their provisional ballots. And I want to say to anyone out there listening, if you voted provisionally, please cure that. If you don't know how to do that, call 866 our vote, 866 687 8683, and we'll help you determine how you need to cure your ballot. So if you got a provisional ballot, that means that they told you you may not have been on the rolls. You know you were registered, but when you got there, they didn't have you on the rolls, and you voted provisional because you're entitled to that. You may have left your ID at home, and you need to provide that ID before Friday. So we need to know if you voted provisionally, how we can help you cure your provisional ballot by calling 866 our vote. That's 866 687 8683. So that means once all the votes are counted, then we can determine who really is the winner in Georgia. Right now, it's a very narrow margin between Trump and Biden. So it's hinging on places like Gwinnett, DeKalb, Savannah, for that haven't counted their ballots yet, all of their absentee ballots. So now they're in the process of counting.
Okay.
And you, as a voter, have the right to go observe that process. They have to allow you to observe that process.
So here's my
If you
question.
want to see it, you can go to your local board, find out where they're doing that count, and observe it.
If they voted provisionally, they had a provisional ballot, and if the vote ballot is not, because this is verbiage that I'm learning today. So if it's not cured, will it count?
It depends on what they have to cure. For instance, there were some people that voted provisionally because they were not in their correct polling or precinct.
Gotcha.
They voted out of precinct. So that would be left up to the Board of Elections to determine the races that they would count or not count that ballot.
Okay.
But for people other people who got a provisional ballot that required some other action, like if they said you had to provide proof of citizenship, or if you had to provide an ID, or some other thing that they said you had to bring. When you vote provisionally, they are required to give you a piece of paper that tells you how to cure the process, to call your local board of elections, email them, or what it may be, fax them, whatever it might be.
Okay.
But if you don't remember and you need help curing that, because that's what we call a cure your provisional ballot, call the 866-our vote number, because we will help you cure.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you.
And I want to make sure the listening audience understands this is where the notepad, the ink pen, and the paper comes in. Please understand what Ms. Helen is saying. There's a little bit more work to do for the provisional ballots. It's not just go cast your vote. There's follow-up work, and I wanted Ms. Helen to really explain that. There's a little bit of follow-up work, people.
And
that you have
also, to do. If you had an absentee ballot and it was rejected for some reason, like you didn't sign it, if we need to get you a ride to your local board of elections to sign it, or to do a cure affidavit, there's an affidavit for the absentee. If you need to do that, call the 866-our vote number. We'll help you.
It's not too late.
We'll do whatever it takes to get you to cure your ballot. Yes, ma'am.
So it's not too late.
No, you have until Friday.
Oh, wow. Okay. 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 Go ahead, Bella.
No, Helen, please continue. I just want to make sure the temperature out there is, oh my goodness. And
right.
Yes, and I hope some light bulbs are going on, because I'm going to take a minute to really highlight Miss Helen. Miss Helen has worked numerous hours and several years. My hat's off to her, just being a League of Women Voters State Board Director. But it's nothing like the boots on the ground. And Miss Helen, when she gets into it, we have 159 counties that we are responsible to making sure that we've taken oaths in our organizations to help the citizens understand and educate what's going on. Helen, just continue, because this is music to my ears, as you all know. I want to make people understand what you're talking about in regards to the election.
And we want to tell people the election is not over even after November the 13th when they certify. There's going to be a runoff election for December. We want people to understand that there's a runoff for a special election for John Lewis's seat. That's Fulton, DeKalb, Clayton. So there might be some runoffs based on the final numbers in this election. If a candidate doesn't get 50 plus 1% of the vote totals, then it becomes a runoff. So we want people to understand it's not. We still have a runoff election for December 5th and January. January is for the U.S. Senate race, because that's still up for Johnny Isakson's seat. That will be a runoff in January. So you can still register to vote, by the way, for either of those runoff elections if there's a federal candidate on the ballot. And so right now it is. So you can register to vote. If you missed this election, November the 3rd, you can vote in the runoff. You can register to vote. You can vote in the runoff.
Now, I'm going to take a minute, ShAunta. Now, I'm going to put this on Miss Helen. We didn't discuss this, but Miss Helen, as simple as you can, I've had a lot of people say to me, I don't understand when Congressman John Lewis passed and I saw this semi-special election, then I saw people voting. I didn't understand it. Then you got other people running. Then I think I heard that the Congressional Black Caucus named somebody. Just a little content. I was trying to help shape that, because a lot of people, especially in their districts, didn't understand just the fact that the time period that Congressman John Lewis died and why it's where it is now.
Right. Unfortunately, he died right after he had won his primary election. So then the governor called for a special primary election to fill that seat. And so based on that, there were about 9 candidates that qualified. And of course, with 9 people in the race, we knew it was going to be a runoff. So the runoff to fill his primary seat or his current seat happened in September.
Right.
And now in December, you'll have the runoff election for his seat. Okay. That's to fill his unexpired term, to fill it right now.
Okay.
Then for the November election, their party did a qualifying of candidates for people to fill his term for the next Congress session.
Right.
That was in that race was held November the 3rd. And of course, Nikema Williams has won that seat.
Hands down. Mm-hmm.
So she'll be going to Congress in January for 2 years in John Lewis's old seat. The runoff election that's happening in December is going to cover a period from the end of the December runoff till the January election that person will hold a seat for a short, maybe 2-week period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With that. And then Nikema takes over the seat in January.
Helen, that was brilliant because God knows I tried several times as I continue to poly and talk to people. Thank you for that because I know it was a lot of confusion. It still is. And you nailed it as always. ShAunta, did you have a question for Helen?
My mind is blown. I think I forgot the other question because it's so much that she's giving that I really did realize I needed to know. And I guess, when you're talking about, I didn't know that you could vote again in the runoff. So, okay, there's my question. So this presidential, do we feel like there's going to be a runoff? And if so, then we will be able to vote again? Or is this just with the other seats?
This is with everyone else, not necessarily the president. This is with everyone else. Okay. That is regard to the Senate seats. Right. And if the numbers get closer, I think Perdue was getting below 52. So if he gets below 50, that seat between he and Ossoff will become a runoff. Well.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So we may have 2 runoff seats there. Then you got state representative, Georgia state representatives. You got Georgia senators that may have some runoff elections. Okay. You may have county commissioners. I'm not saying there is, but if there is a runoff, they would be on that December ballot. The federal people will be in the January situation.
And Helen, I'm going to take a minute because you and I wear the same badge.
Mm-hmm.
Speak on my behalf, organization, and yours. The importance of not just primary in general, but there's a whole lot of, right? Helen, come on, share a little bit about that. There's a whole lot of other elections going on from the local state level that people seem to, oh, my vote doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I really want you, Helen, while you got the listening ear, to explain to people the importance of voting just in general. And there's always other, people who are running for office.
And most people think the presidential elections are the most important when not necessarily so. The people that impact you the most are your city council people, your county commission people, and your state and elected officials. They impact you more on a daily basis than the presidential or the Congress ever will.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's important that we vote in every election. And what we should do at the beginning of every year, the Secretary of State publishes an election calendar.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you which elections are going to be held, when they're going to be held, and on what date. It tells you the last date to register to vote, which is usually 30 days prior to the election.
Okay.
So get that.
Yeah.
Put that on your calendar.
That's
We
good.
all do smartphones. I put it in my smartphone, what dates I need to be aware of is coming up. Put those dates in your calendar, whether it's on the wall or in your phone or in your iPad. Know what those dates are, because those people impact you more than anyone else can impact.
Say that one more time, Miss Helen.
Yeah.
The local and state people impact you more than the national people do. So you need to be very clear. I mean, if you're unconcerned, you're concerned about judges, most people as judges never have opponents in their races. They run unopposed. Same thing for district attorneys. They run unopposed. A lot of state senators, a lot of state representatives, they run unopposed. If you don't like what they're doing in passing legislature, run for office. Get somebody you know to run for office. Contribute money to their campaigns so that you can get the right people that are going to implement laws that will improve our situations the way we want to. Elected officials really choose voters. Voters don't choose them, because elected officials, they're going to only target information to people who vote every election cycle, every people who vote most office. If you don't vote in every election cycle, I doubt if you'll get a piece of paper from one candidate. So we want you, so that means a few people are making the decision for millions of people. There are 7 million registered voters in Georgia right now. And to bring it home, let's just look at 2018 when Stacy Abrams was running.
Yes.
She lost by 54,000 votes, right? And I'm talking about Black people alone. I'm not going to talk about Asians, whites, or others. Black people alone. There were 900,000 Black people alone who were registered to vote but didn't go vote in the 2018 election cycle.
All 900,000 people
Say
did
that
not vote.
one more time, Helen.
And she lost by 54,000.
Do the math, people, please.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not saying that they should have voted for Stacy. I'm just giving that as an example of how numbers matter and how every vote counts. That's what people don't understand. Some young people also say that in this election cycle, I'm not going to vote for X candidate because I don't like either one. Well, I'm going like when you don't vote for one and don't make a choice, because they say, well, why should I make a choice of lesser of two evils? I go like, when you don't, then that your vote goes to the other. So numbers matter. And I don't care who you vote for, but numbers matter. So people understand how numbers can impact an election cycle. Mayor Bottoms won her seat as mayor with 700 votes. Okay? And you probably had one council district with more people than that didn't vote. So again, I'm just giving examples, y'all, of how numbers can make a difference. So I want people to understand that every vote does matter and the numbers make up the difference. And what we have coming up in 2021 is redistricting. And I'm going to tell you, Democrats and Republicans do it. They draw district lines to make sure that they have the most number of seats, that they remain in power. Okay? Remember how Fulton County had Bill Edwards and our sister, the county commissioner that died, to run against each other? Again, that was changing the boundaries to pack people so that instead of having 2 seats, you only had 1 seat. So people will draw lines like that, right? To ensure it's called packing people in a district. Whereas if I split them, we probably could make a majority in 2 districts versus 1 district.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? So
yes,
it's critical that we have an independent redistricting commission that is made up of citizens who are just concerned about getting us the most representation and to get fair representation. So we're coming up, the census gives us the numbers that will help draw the lines. And that determines how many people you get Congress-wise, how many state senators you can get, how many state representatives you can get, how many commissioners you can get, how many board of education people you can get, how many city council. Again, numbers matter. And we need you to be involved in that process as citizens, because both political parties do it. They're going to try to keep themselves in power, right?
Right.
And neither one may be in our best interest.
Right.
So I'm not advocating for any party or candidate. All I'm saying is we need to be involved in that process so that we get the fair maps that we deserve and the fair representation that we deserve. If you see somebody's district go from Buckhead down to South Fulton and it's stupidly drawn, that's somebody trying to protect somebody's district. So, so I'm just saying, we've got to be, as citizens, look at what the Constitution says about that and draw our own districts. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little water.
Sure. Miss Helen, I'm going to take the opportunity now, because of the civic engagement that I'm in, that just pose a couple of general questions to you that we answer over and over again. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. So here we go. A lot of the young people, millenniums, Generation X and Y, I don't see a benefit. I don't even see anybody that looks like me. Why should I join anything and give my time when I'm not getting paid?
Why you should give your time? Because it means your life is improved. I mean, if you young people, especially college students, if you look at your tuition fees you pay, that's determined by these elected officials. Excuse me.
Are you
Anything
serious?
that impacts you in your life, how much you get paid, whether you get health care benefits, right? That's all determined by some public policy that some elected official made. So you need to understand that, whether I get workers' comp insurance, it's all a public policy. And if you don't be engaged in that process, then you get what you get.
That's good.
That's good, Miss Helen. That's good. Now, Helen, you and I know, and I always say in this try, test, and conquer, you don't know what you don't know. So, family, you're going to have to stay tuned in for next week. I'm holding it back, but there's a lot of young advocacies, as Helen and I know. I'm going to bring one on the show next Tuesday, as a matter of fact. ShAunta doesn't even know this yet either. We just confirmed before this show. And my point of saying that is, people need to see what, who looks like me. There's a lot of people out there, young people I'm talking about right now, that are representing right? Representing
Right.
what Ms. Helen's talking about, and they matter. And so I wanted you all to know that there's a lot
They
out there,
matter.
what you don't know, but when you do find out, then you need to exercise your right and move on. Miss Helen, I get a lot of this too. Well, are there other organizations that represent other ethnicities? I mean, I know you got the League of Voters, you got the People Coalition, you got this, that, Pro Georgia. I mean, I want to join somebody that understands me, that looks like me, and that represents me.
There are lots of organizations out there that represent different people. There's the Caribbean Association, there's the Jamaican Association, there's the Haitian Association, there's Galeo, a Georgia Association of Latino elected officials. There's GALAR, there's the Georgia Association of Latin human rights people. So, I mean, there are organizations that are out there. If you don't know, at the state table, which is Pro Georgia, there are over 60 organizations there. My organization has different organizations that belong to the coalition. So they're out there. The NAACP is out there. There's Rainbow Push. There's the Urban League. There's Women Engaged. There's Georgia Coalition of Black Women. There's the Georgia Black Women's Roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's fraternities, there's sororities that are civically engaged that you can become a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in your life from birth to death is impacted by a public policy that some elected official makes. And that elected official gets there by the vote. That elected official gets to make a public policy or implement a law based on who votes for them. So you control them. You need to be engaged in the voting process. We need every high school, every middle school to be talking about civics. How is the government work? And I don't mean a cursory just with the president and the Supreme Court and all that. We need to drill down to your board of education that's going to determine what studies you get to, what course you get.
And when you were talking, Ms. Helen, I was thinking about us trying to acquire Queen Yellow Pain, a young rapper that really, I know you heard it, Ms. Helen, really broke down the system where people simplistically can hear. But let me ask you this direct question, Helen, although we know the answer. What is the age limit to vote in the state of Georgia?
17 and a half, and will be 18 on or before election day. You can register to vote. So 6 months prior to your 18th birthday, you can actually register to vote. And then on your 18th birthday, you become eligible to vote. So you have to be 18, you have to be a citizen, you have to be registered in the county live in the county or state that you're registering in. You can't be convicted of a felony, and you can't be judged mentally incompetent. But otherwise, there are no restrictions on you. So we want people to get registered right away. Vote. First-time voters, we need you to be first-time voters. We need that. You need to know. And we need young people to run for office. Yes. If you think these people aren't doing what you want them to do, run for office.
That's good. That's good.
Run for office. You be the change you want. No one else can do it, but you can do it.
That's good.
Good stuff. What do you say, Queen? Good stuff.
Good stuff. And I'm typing away here because I want people there. There are certain things that you're saying that is really standing out to me. And I think people need to know, one, yeah, your voice does matter and every vote does count, you know, and you just really hit on something. And it's funny, I don't believe in coincidence, but there was something on my mind for the last couple of days in reference to my own hometown. And I was talking about how when I was growing up, it seems like the older people at that time were more in the know of what you're talking about right now, you know, because it was a constant fight, more of a fight than we've had to fight. You understand what I'm saying? And that fight of the elder in yesteryears is why I'm sitting owning my own station now,
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I look at that, and there was, so with you touching base on that, you just really solidified something for me. I'm not going to say that I questioned it or I doubted if I could do or be the voice, but a lot of people don't know that it's as simple as running. A lot of
And
people
some people
feel,
get elected by 100 votes.
That's right.
I mean,
Tell it,
the
say it again.
the intimidation factor, because we have to keep it real. It
mhm.
is intimidating when you are running, when you are a person that may not have a wall full of degrees like the person that you're running against. So a lot of people automatically think, well, you know what, I don't have a winning chance. I'm the type of person, I just do believe that what God has for me is for me. And
Right.
if he has chosen in this season to plant the know-how on the inside of you, it doesn't matter how many degrees somebody else has, because it's
That's
not their
right.
journey, it's yours. So you just really solidified something for me. So I thank you for that, because you have a lot of young people that are being silenced by tradition. They're
Hmm.
being silenced by, this is the way we've always done it. But we got to understand, we're in a different time. COVID has proven that. I like what you
That's
said
right.
earlier. We're having to figure some things out in this COVID year. But what really stuck out to me with what you said, with what you highlighted, um, all of the voters that voted this year topped numbers of past votes,
Hmm.
past elections,
Hmm.
in the middle of a pandemic.
Hmm.
There was no pandemic. There was no reason to not go to the polls in past elections. But the need for change is so obvious now that the
Hmm.
pandemic didn't keep people from going to register, and to
Hmm.
cast their vote. And I really do believe that if we have a lot of engagements like the ones that we are having right now, with the people that are, I don't even know if that's a real organization, Bella, but you said boots on the ground. I love that. Is that real?
No.
Because okay, well, it needs to be. Somebody needs to pick that up and run with it. Maybe we'll do it. I don't know. But when you think about the boots on the ground, and I'm listening to the people's agenda, you have so many people that are volunteering their time. Let me say that again. That are volunteering their time to implement change in the world.
Hmm.
A lot of people, I'm not going to move, I'm not getting paid for it. I think Bella said that. But oh, sweetheart, yes, you are. And
Mhm.
contingent upon the way the votes roll out,
Hmm.
you might get paid less, you might get paid more. So
That's right.
you are really shedding a lot of light for me today. And I pray that the viewers and the listeners are taking notes, as Bella Biz told you, because we're in a season right now that if you don't get it while the getting is good, you gonna get left. And
Yeah.
That's
that's all I
right.
gotta say, Bella.
Well, I want to say a shout out to Nana Coggins. Thank you for joining us. We count it all on Joy, Nana. She's just making a comment, Miss Helen, saying awesome information. But I would like to take, as I always do in my format segments, the last few minutes, Helen. Helen is a talker, and she's more than a talker, she's a doer. Helen, I want you to set this tone as we usher out, but I want you to share like you've always have. I've heard you 1,000,001 times with your clarion call talk about the importance of voting and the importance of volunteering, and just in this climate that we call the pandemic, the unprecedented.
Hmm.
Share with the listening audience one more time, Helen, from your perspective, the importance of what you do and why you do what you do.
Well, we need boots on the ground. We use boots on the ground. So that's who our volunteers are. Those are the people that are in the communities that can talk
Okay.
to their neighbors, can talk to their cousins, can talk to their aunts and grandmothers and brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, great grands, godchildren, whomever, my sister at church, my brother in my fraternity, whomever your network is, get everybody to be engaged in voting. Voting matters, y'all. Numbers make a difference in the outcome. If voting wasn't critical, they wouldn't put barriers in place for you to vote. Example, for 200 years in Georgia, we've been voting, and all we had to do was sign a piece of paper saying, I am who I am. I live where I live. But all of a sudden, after Obama ran for office, wrapped around the building, right? They then thought, oh, we need to institute a photo ID. Everybody's got to have a photo ID. Well, no, everybody didn't have to have a photo ID to vote, because for 200 years we voted without it. We didn't have any fraud. And so why was it put there? Because there were people, certain kinds of people who were born at certain times that didn't have an ID. If I live in rural Georgia, I may not own a car. I may not have a driver's license.
Right.
So I may never fly. So, my local grocer knows me, so I don't need an ID to cash a check. Okay?
Gotcha.
So they put these things in place because they wanted to stop certain people from voting. And those barriers are there for that purpose alone. They serve no other purpose. Like I said, we've been voting for 200 years with just signing our name. Just signing our name. But all of a sudden, after 2008, we got to put an ID in place. And it has to be a photo ID. But of course, if it's Morehouse or an HBCU college ID, you can't use that. While Georgia State could. The University of Georgia could. But as a HBCU, Payne, who else? Morehouse, Spelman, Emory, any private college students' IDs can't be used, but a state school ID can be used.
Wow.
So it's those kind of little subtleties. And to get a photo ID requires you, to have a birth certificate. If I don't have a birth certificate, I got to pay to get it. So now we have a poll tax again, because you're paying to vote, to get something to vote. Okay? And there are some people, like my dad, born with a midwife, and they wrote it in the Bible. There wasn't a hospital certificate or anything else. So for him, if he hadn't been a veteran, he would have to go get a lawyer. And there was one guy that we did do this with, had to pay $1,000 to get proof, some sort of proof, to a lawyer to get him an ID to vote.
Miss Helen,
I'm
stop
telling
it.
you, it's not something I heard, it's something I know. Okay? So it's only barriers like that. And that shows you that your vote is important because they're putting those barriers in place to stop you from voting.
Miss Helen, before we came live in the broadcast, we were talking about how I was one of the ones that waited to go vote the day of. And I went to the precinct that I knew I was supposed to, that's where I voted last time we needed to vote. And it got to a point where they advised me that I could not vote there because I was registered. Y'all are my mama first. Excuse my little one.
We understand.
That I could not vote there because I wasn't registered there. Well, I never updated any of my registration information. I never changed. But then I had to take and travel almost an hour where I used to live to vote. Now, how many people don't have that luxury? How many people don't have that option? And so when it all boiled down to it, I went and I vote the first location and the second location. There were only 2 people in the building to vote. So the first thing that resonated to me was, this is one of those hidden agendas. This is one of those hidden distractions. And it is designed to distract us and to demotivate us. Ain't nobody got time for that. We're not fixing to pay an Uber to go a whole hour. We're not going to, you know what I'm saying? So I totally get what you just said. And just
Right.
knowing that it's those small little things that we just think, oh, well, or the moving of the precincts and nobody
Hmm.
knowing at the last minute. I
That's
do
right.
believe, regardless of whatever anybody's opinion is, I just do believe that it is still set up to deter us from using our voice.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In closing, I got to get this in because she represents the body of wisdom, right? Helen, once these votes are in, once they're counted, rather A or B wins, I want you to really just say something simplistic to our audience. What should the voters expect next? So after this election, once we're going to fast forward, A or B is in, it's settled. Well, I want you to leave them with parting words because it never stops, Helen. What's your advice to the voters that's out there listening right now?
Even if the voting is over on November the 13th for the presidential election, there's still more elections to come with our U.S. Senate races. And those are just as critical because they're going to set national policy. And we need to have the right people elected in those positions. So you've got to vote. We have redistricting coming up in January. You've got to be engaged in that. It's a year-round process. We do this 365 days. It's not just
Wow.
at elections time.
And Helen, how
Wow.
can the listening audience get in contact with you and your organization? One more time.
You can go to the www.thepeoplesagenda.org, the peoples with an S, agenda.org. You can call us at 404 653 1199. That's 404 653 1199. And on our website, join, because what we do, you get invited to our weekly Tuesday meeting from 12 to 2 every week. So join us in this fight to make our communities better. Thank you all so much for having me.
Miss Helen, words cannot express the last short notice that I know, and I want the audience to know, commitment. She wrote the word. She created the word because I always know when Miss Helen comes, she brings it. On behalf of the OPNS family, me personally, as a civic engager myself, Helen, I thank you. My hat's off to you for all the
Thank you.
services that you are doing, have done, and continue to do, and the alliances that you bring to the other organizations. I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart, and we count it out on joy. Queen?
Yes, that everything that you just said, I am so grateful that God has blessed me with this opportunity. I took a selfish moment there. Me with this opportunity because I'm always about, like I said, I have so many phrases, but my hashtag is hashtag Here We Grow. And when we take the time to sit at the table of wise doctrine of those who have studied to show themselves approved, you
Mhm.
get up from the table better, a better person, thinking better, seeing better, hearing better. And a lot of people devalue this process. I like what you just said about this is not a just an election
Mhm.
time event, that you guys are literally boots on the ground all
Mhm.
year. And I do believe that if we as a people adopt the people's agenda's
Mhm.
mission, this world would be a better place. I There was something that, and I want to quote him, something that Salam said on
Salam.
Yusuf Salam said on Monday. There were two things that really stuck out, but one, something that his mom said: don't participate in them destroying you. They need
Right.
your participation to
Mhm.
destroy you. That's when you say destroy you, that's the opportunities that you may have, the outlook that you may have on yourself, the environment that you may be in, the neighborhood that you live in. Don't
Mhm.
give them any help keeping you in that box. And what you've done for me is when it comes down to voting and the political verbiage, the political knowledge, you broke down some walls for me today. And
Right.
I would like to say that I'm in the know. But when it comes down to this, I'm in awe. And I just do believe that today I grew. So I thank you. I
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
for not considering it robbery to come here on OPNS 97.1 FM to be able to reach our people. And I'm pretty sure that there are some people that are walking away from this segment, this broadcast, informed, different, and changed to the point where, you know what? I'm not going to sit on my voice anymore. So I thank you for
Thank you.
being here. Bella, you can close us out.
Said OPNS 97.1. It's your girl Bella. Tried, tested, conquered. Miss Helen Butler, living testament. She wrote those words. Everybody take care. Don't you touch that dial. We will be right back.
Miss Helen, don't you go nowhere. Here we grow, ladies.
All right. Thank you.